Great. Good to see everyone. Welcome. I'm Ted Snyder. I'm Dean of Yale School of Management. The school's mission is to educate leaders for business and society. Welcome to Evans Hall. I'd like to welcome also participants from the Global Network for Advanced Management who are joining online. I'd also like to welcome EMBA students from Lingnan University in Hong Kong who are studying here at Yale School of Management this week. Welcome to this Becton Distinguished Visitor Series event. We bring global leaders from all sectors, from all over the world, to Yale School of Management under this series umbrella. This year, we're asking all of the distinguished guests to comment on the challenges associated with leading and managing global enterprises. So the format, I will indulge in some questions with our special guest for the first part, and then we will open it up to questions from you. And we'll reserve some time at the end for maybe some closing comments. So we're honored and excited today to have a special guest, a graduate of Yale College, a graduate of Yale Law School, a person who's deeply committed to Yale University. He serves on the board of Yale Center Beijing, which is operated by Yale School of Management on behalf of the university. He has endowed the Yale Law School's Paul Tsai China Center. Let me tell you a little bit about his background. After he graduated from Yale Law School in 1990, he joined Sullivan & Cromwell, an international law firm headquartered in New York City. He was appointed vice president and general counsel of Rosecliffe, a management buyout firm in New York. From 1995 to 1999, he worked in Hong Kong with Investor AB, where he focused on Asian private equity. And then the big event. He joined the founding team of Alibaba. That was, I believe, 1999?
That's right.
And you became vice chairman, executive vice chairman in 13?
Oh, I had a lower position back then.
Okay. But that was the event, the time period that probably most of you associate with this distinguished guest, because now Alibaba's got a market cap of, I believe, over $250 billion. It aspires to make business easier anywhere in the globe. Its objectives include having 2 billion customers by 2020. It aspires to be one of the top 5 largest and most influential companies by 2020. I'm not going to talk about all the companies in the world that Alibaba has already surpassed. It's a long list. So please join me in welcoming our special guest, Mr. Joe Tsai.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, really delighted to have you here. And as I mentioned at the outset, one of the themes for this series is just how do you manage a global company today? And if you could reflect on what the challenges are for you in your role at Alibaba.
Well, I think Alibaba today is still very much of a China-based business. Most of our operations are based in China. So when we expand globally, what it means is that we have to build our business from the ground up, serving customers that are not familiar to us in our home market. So even though we're very, very successful in China, and we know our customers well in China, when you want to go outside, you're in unfamiliar territory really from a customer standpoint. What that means is that you have to build up the human base, the people, the talent locally in order to be able to serve the customers all around the world. So if when we expand into Southeast Asia, we need to make sure that we have people that are familiar with those markets. When we're in Japan or Korea, we need to have people from, grew up in Japan and Korea. When we come to the US, we have to hire Americans. What that means is there are really a couple of barriers for a Chinese company. The number one barrier is language. All right. I think that might seem, for an American company, that might seem like a non-issue, but it is an issue for a Chinese company. When you have still the corporate language today, still in Alibaba is Chinese, right? And most of our executives communicate, in Chinese. But when we hire people in Italy, in the UK, in the United States, we have to hire, by definition, you're hiring people that can't communicate with headquarters because very few people around the globe today speak Chinese. And you don't want to limit your talent pool by only looking at people who speak Chinese. And that is actually a very, very big challenge. For an American company, on the other hand, wherever they go, English is not the problem. And you can always expect, I think American executives expect that whoever they hire in Brazil or France or China can communicate back with headquarters. And that alone creates a lot of friction and misunderstanding. And I think that's related to the second structural issue.
So could I, sorry to interrupt, but so does that mean you change who's at headquarters so that it includes more non-Chinese or people who are more bilingual? Or do you change practice at headquarters where people still in the hallways and side meetings speak Chinese? Or do you try to have some meetings in English? I mean, what do you do in the headquarters?
I think it would be too much to expect that change in headquarters will happen overnight. You can't just say, well, let's just get rid of half of our executives in headquarters and or in our home market and make sure that we bring in all these international people. These changes happen over years and years. It's an evolution. By the same token, it would be very difficult for us to say, all right, starting tomorrow, our corporate language is going to be in English. Then you have 99% of the employees in the company who really won't be able to communicate with each other. So I think that's gradual. It takes time. We don't know how it's going to happen other than the fact that by bringing in people from all over the world, we have a program. We have over 100 people that we hire globally to bring them back to Hangzhou for them to spend a year and a half in our business. And hopefully after that, they can be sent to the markets to develop our business. But through programs like that, we hope to really bring in an element of internationalization through osmosis. Because the main thing, as you pointed out, I think that the critical issue is the people who are based in your home markets need to change. They need to change their mentality and outlook. And I wanted to mention one of the challenges, why they need to change. For example, in the process of a manager give someone who works for them a performance review. If you are coming from the same culture and speaking the same language, that performance review can be done in a very skillful way so that you both send a message if there's things to be improved, but also you make the person being reviewed not feel completely dejected. And we've had the biggest problems giving sort of mixed performance reviews, right? When it's cross-culture and cross-language. With someone that I could share the same culture with. I could say, hey, Ted, that was a lousy job. That was
I
terrible.
get used to that all the time.
But can you just do better next time and shake it off and when you're cross culture, different language, you can't do that. It's not very difficult to get that rapport going, right? And so just simply the simple activity of performance reviews creates lots of friction, and the person being reviewed in a foreign market will say, oh, I'm being treated unfairly, and the person at headquarters says, this is a very difficult employee to handle, right? So anyway.
So being Chinese and global has challenges. Let's add in technology. What differences does it make in terms of these challenges that you're a technology company?
Well, I would narrow the definition of a technology company to internet companies for the purposes of our discussion, okay? So I'm not talking about Cisco or IBM. I'm talking about Google, Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba. In China we have Tencent, Alibaba, and Baidu, companies like that. First, let me talk about sort of the positives. The positive of being a large-scale internet companies like this, like ours, and all the other companies I've mentioned, is we have services that serve literally billions of people. And you have access to a large base of consumers. And that's great. It's great because in the internet world, once a consumer is on your platform, you could actually cross-sell a lot of services to them on the same platform. And we've seen how Facebook has done this. We've seen how Amazon has done this. We've seen how Google does it very well. And in China, it's the same. If you look at Alibaba today, we have what people understand as mainly an e-commerce platform. But through that platform, we also provide payments and financial services. We provide entertainment. We have other services. And what that means is you can expand your user base, not just in terms of breadth, but also depth of the types of services that they use from you. And that's very, very exciting, very interesting. And just imagine having all this user base and also having data to inform you about how to serve these users better. Not just in the core service, but also if you want to expand into another service. Now, that's the good thing. The challenge is internet companies become very amorphous, and there are no clear swimming lanes. It's not like we say, oh, we're just a e-commerce company, and somebody else says, oh, we're just a search company, or we're just a social networking company. We all swim in each other's lanes, and it's because we can. And that's where the challenge comes. How focused do you want to define your business, and how spread out do you want to be? And in the role of senior management, you have to make some cuts and decisions as to what makes you as to what is the best area to get into. Now, if I'm speaking in a business school, so the business school sort of answer to that is, well, look at what your core competence is. Do what you can do best, except that for an internet business like ours, our core competence actually is also amorphous. It changes. Why? Because as you expand into new user base, you're collecting more data about their other kinds of behavior beyond e-commerce, for example, and all of a sudden you have this insight that's beyond your core. And so the core there's no such definition of core competence that is constant. It changes, it evolves. So
to follow up, this amorphous quality that you can go in different directions, it seems to me to be both powerful but also potentially scary for whether it's a U.S. company going outside the U.S. or a Chinese company going outside China, because if you start getting into financial services and transactions, or you start going into telecom, you're going to step on a lot of people's toes in those other countries. So maybe I'll just leave that as a comment, but do you see, either by virtue of regulation or competition, public policy, that basically we'll get to a world where tech companies have to limit themselves geographically and in terms of the depth that you were talking about earlier, where they just restrain themselves from going into certain things?
I think geographically, no. Geographically, if you're in the same business in country A, you can always do the same business in country B. And other than all the cultural and issues, or if there are protectionist measures, then that's a different problem.
That's what a little bit what I was thinking about, that if you're a relatively small country, whether you're in Europe or Asia, and you've got a big, successful tech company coming in, they may wipe out what's there.
Take Google as an example. In Europe, they see plenty of problems. But on that score, I think European governments can think a little bit more progressively and really look at what their consumers want. If consumers are happy with the service, then it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to limit and to impose protectionist measures.
So is it your view that the best business philosophy and strategy is to just keep looking for those opportunities to serve customers and keep going, not restrain yourself? I assume you don't want to restrain yourself as you go into another country.
Yeah, you don't want to restrain yourself, but when you go to another country, which line of business do you get into? There's a prioritization of that. So we're in a number of businesses. We're in e-commerce. We have a platform that is an information system for logistics. We are in the financial services business. We are getting into entertainment. We do cloud computing. So when we go to a new country, let's say we approach India, a country that is by population just as big as China, very exciting. What do? What line of business do you start with? A lot of people assume that, Alibaba e-commerce company, they should just go in and do e-commerce in India. Not necessarily. We want to prioritize and say, what is the best thing to do? So in the case of India, for example, our strongest business there today relate to mobile and payments, and the combination of the two, because we have a very substantial investment in a company that is today the largest mobile wallet company in India. And yes, it has something to do with e-commerce, because you pay, when you buy things online, you have to pay, but it has other possibilities as well. So to answer your question, I don't think you should limit yourself. I think the core question there is to determine what line of business do you go in, do you lead with?
And that loops back to your earlier point. You have to build in your team, broadly defined, insights as to what's going to work.
Yeah.
You don't want to do the Facebook thing in India where you try to give something away and say, no, thank you.
Well,
you don't have to comment on that, Joe.
No, I think different companies have different strategies for different countries. But look, I think the one thing about these, like Facebook, Amazon, Google, Alibaba, founder-led companies approach new markets with a great ideal. They have a big vision for what they want to achieve. If the founder wants to go into a market and make connection and internet accessible and free for everyone, that's a pretty big vision. That's very idealistic. So I think these founder-driven companies like ourselves I commend that. I think that it's a very, very positive thing.
Good. So we're at the juncture where we're going to open it up to your questions. And I may intermingle some questions that we got in advance from students at member schools in the global network elsewhere. But I know we have some mics here. So if anyone has a question, if you could signal by raising your hand, wait for the mic to get to you. And then if you would be so kind to just say your name and introduce yourself as to whether you're in the School of Management or somewhere else. So who would like to ask a question? We have a question right here. Tim is bringing you the mic.
Thank you. Hey, Joe, thank you so much for giving this presentation. And I'm a prospective student here to visit SOM today.
We brought you here to do some sales work.
It's a great pleasure. And my name is Venus Hu. Right now, I'm work for a hedge fund firm in Denver, Colorado. And two things I want to ask. First is, I really want to know, how did you make your bold choice to transfer your career from a private equity industry that you can make a lot of money to just a startup company with Alibaba? How did you, come up this bold decision? And what is the truth that behind this decision? What kinds of characters that Alibaba has in the past make you to do that? That is the first question. And the second one.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Let's just stick with one question at a time, if I may, and then we'll be able to get to more people.
Okay.
Thank you. But that question's very good. So.
Thank you.
So make sure you let me know about your application. Okay.
Okay.
So lots of people ask that question. I think generally people know about the story of, in 1999, I was working in the investment business, and then I decided to quit my job and join Jack Ma and the rest of his founding team in this thing that's, didn't seem like it was going to be a great success like Alibaba is today. Nobody could have predicted back then where we are today. This is at a time when the internet was just sort of starting to become sort of known. I even hesitate to use the word take off because it took quite a while for the internet to take off. China today has over 700 million internet users. Back in 1999, I think the internet population was maybe like 10 million. It was very, very small. People were still doing dial-up access from the 56K dial-up modem. So I actually answered this question yesterday when I was speaking to law school students, and I will repeat that answer here. That those of you sitting here, you are a privileged group in that you have gone through great training. Lots of you went to great colleges, great undergraduate career, and you might have worked a few years in important jobs, and now you come here, you come to Yale. You're going to walk away with a Yale degree, okay? So what does that mean? It means that with a degree like that, you can, your downside, think about the downside if you have a Yale degree. It's actually not that big. Okay? Look at Jack. He went to Hangzhou Teachers College. He has unlimited downside. Or he had. So for me at the time,
I don't have a Yale degree.
Well,
so you know.
You have, you're dean of a major school at Yale, so that counts, I think. So at the time, for me, even though it was pretty much of a gut decision, I actually didn't think through, go through a rational process. But now thinking back, 17 years later, the situation I faced was one of asymmetrical risk. In other words, I had limited downside, but huge upside, unlimited upside. I mean, I think you, in business, you're all taught, theory of buying options and things like that. When you're in a situation where the risk is asymmetrical, why not? Right? And what you give up, you think of it as opportunity cost. But the opportunity cost is a well-defined number. It's my salary and whatever bonus I would earn. That's my opportunity cost. Just think about it. Through life, if you have to give up opportunity cost that's already well-defined and capped, you should probably give it up for something that's potentially greater. In our business, I always think about what opportunity costs we give up. And in the internet business, we actually, when we give up doing something, our opportunity cost could be unlimited because it could be a great sort of thing. But if it's a salary job, that's it's a well-defined opportunity cost that you can afford to give up. So again, asymmetrical risk profile. But back then, I wasn't thinking that way. Back then, I thought to myself, this is a great team. I could trust these guys. I would love to work with these guys and spend time with them. And that's why I jumped over.
Great. Could we get this gentleman right here? And then we'll move from.
Thank you. And one thing I added up for Mr.
Could you
Tsai
introduce
is,
yourself?
I heard from you, excuse me?
Could you introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Michael, and my Chinese name is Chen Guoxing, 国家兴亡，匹夫有责. I heard you from my grandma, and she introduced you and your family. And it's not about how successful you were, and it's about your integrity, honesty, and modesty. And a lot of people come here may receive the email because you are the vice president of Alibaba, but they don't mention that during the time you joined Alibaba, you gave up $700,000 per year and to accept $600 per year. And when Jack Ma spent all of his money and you got $5 million from Goldman, but you rarely mention it. So because of your good characters, those reasons makes I quit all my exams and purchase tickets from Texas and come here and want to meet you. So my question is, look at when we look at around the world, and for example, China, and a couple of years ago, some factories produce poisonous baby powders, and some factories, they produce chemical oil and let people cook for it. And we heard a lot of bad stuffs, but I feel that the government or some powerful leaders around the world for weak to deal with these problems. And we have financial system, legal system, and political system. But when face of this problem, and those systems feel weak. So I think the reason is because we need the fourth system around the world, and I name it social moral credit system, to regulate people's heart and to encourage them to help each other. So I feel sorry that if I bother you, I used to mail you and give you documents yesterday, and today I even come here and want to talk with you directly. If it is for my own success, I already gave up, like losing face. But this social moral credit system is to build this one. Is for my kids, your kids, for all the teenagers and all the people around the world. So I'm wondering that after the lecture, if I can have a few minutes to talk with you, or if you can give me some way I can
so
reach
the
you directly.
question involves this fourth control. So, I'm not going to put our guest on the spot in terms of his schedule, but
I want to thank you for it, but I kind of want to leave it time for other people to answer, so to exchange. So it's a big topic. Maybe we can talk about it offline. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Let me follow up and ask a somewhat related question. So, when I started going to China, which was 1993, one of the things I noted, and it was completely understandable, was that the brands hadn't been built up yet. So as an economist and somebody who knows business, I think of brands as one of the ways that you assure quality. It's not perfect, but you don't always have a legal contract, but by investing in brands, that's one of the ways that firms commit to quality and one of the ways that it assures quality to consumers. So China's been on a path now, and we get to a point where now we have Alibaba, and I think of Alibaba doing potentially one or two things. One is, as providing the platform, you could play a certification role for quality, the way some retailers do. But maybe the more appropriate role for you is more of a catalyst role, where the platform allows for information to develop and feedback. So with the new model that Alibaba and other firms provide, do you see the role as more of a certification substitute role, or more as a catalyst for the development of brands based on feedback and information?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely the latter, the platform role, because the whole power of the internet is, number one, transparency of information. You want to make information widely available to people that are making their own decisions, the consumers. And number two, it has the ability to crowdsource other people's opinions on this platform, so that a consumer can come and read the collective opinion of everybody else who has used the product. So that's the spirit of the internet. We don't want to stand behind or stand between the consumer and the manufacturer and start to impose our own value judgments about the quality and whether this is good or whether that's bad. We let the consumers decide. And the internet is really conducive to that kind of behavior.
Thank you. So let's get a question from, are you one of our guests from Lingnan? Yeah. Please, let's get a microphone from.
Sorry.
And who wants to be
Thank
next?
you for this opportunity. My question is, I'm Albert Young, a EMBA exchange program attendant here. My question is, I'm from a real estate and infrastructure industry in China. My question is, Alibaba is now facilitating in the e-commercial business and as well as the e-payments. My question is that how far do you think the Alibaba will get into the real estate company, let's say intelligent city and intelligent mortgage, intelligent appraisals, and you take over all those things in the future. Maybe we just click on Alibaba and we can build our own houses in the future. How do you think it will come true, and how long does it take? Thank you.
Yeah, I know machines nowadays are smart enough to drive a car, but I think your vision of using machines to just build a house, which means all the architects, the builders, the designers are out of jobs, I think that is still a vision that's very far into the future. We are involved in some of the intelligent city projects with some of the cities in China, really using data and also using our cloud computing technology to lower the cost of computing for these municipal governments, for example, who have lots of data that they want to store, manage, and analyze. But I don't think we will get into a real estate business because the real estate business is fundamentally something that's, well, if you're investing in real estate, you're waiting for the appreciation of the asset. If you're developing real estate, you are, it's kind of the same thing. You're kind of trading the land value. In a way, we are already in the real estate business because of our platform, our electronic platform, our internet platform itself is some kind of real estate. And we're already in that, which makes us think twice about entering into the physical real estate business.
It's good to hear that because I have both of you.
I think we had a question back here, yes.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Victor. I'm a first-year MBA student here at Yale School of Management. Thank you so much for coming. So generally, there's a negative conception that Chinese internet companies tend to just copy the business model of a US company. But when I went to Hangzhou and actually got to see Alibaba firsthand, I realized that the company is very innovative and is breaking new grounds. So maybe you can just talk about some of the ways that you structure your culture and structure your company so that it facilitates innovation.
Right. Well, first, let me just make this very clear that this misconception that Chinese internet companies just copy the American model. I think this is kind of maybe a self-congratulatory perspective of American technology companies. Just think about it this way.
Maybe.
Chinese internet users are totally different from American internet users. First of all, they're like 10, 15 years younger. China's 700 million internet users, 3/4 of the internet users are below 40 years old. That means you and I are already out of that range.
I'm long gone.
Right? So it's a young user base. So how can you copy someone else that serves a very, very different customer set? So I'm glad you point that out, and I'm glad you kind of brought out your own observation when you visited Alibaba. So the question is, how do you organize for innovation? I think number one, the most important thing is innovation has to be bottom up. Innovation can't be top down. The senior management, of the company can provide a general direction, but when it comes to innovation on products, ideas that touch the consumers, that touch the users, it has to percolate from the bottom up because it's the people that are facing consumers day in and day out that can best understand what the users want. So I think it's I think at Alibaba we not only allow, but we also enable a lot of bottom-up innovation by allowing people to make mistakes. And now this comes in from this actually becomes a corporate governance question. The Sarbanes-Oxley people say, oh, your internal control. The launch of this product has to be approved by 15 layers of senior management. We say, no. We're going to allow young people to launch things that they think works and let them fail and then see what happens. Internet is an iterative business. The market itself, the user base itself will determine whether the product works or not within an instant, within hours. So I think the most important thing is to allow young people a little bit of room to fail, Sarbanes-Oxley permitting.
Thank you. That's great. Can we get a mic right down here to the front?
Yeah.
Well, it's right behind.
They're right there.
Now.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi, my name is Barkley, and my Chinese name is Dai Gaole, and I'm a first-year undergrad here
the French
at Yale.
president.
Yes.
You're a first year at Yale College?
Yes, at Yale College.
Okay.
So I'm really interested in what do you think about what sort of capability or mindset or foresight that you think a person or a company should have in order to be successful in the current market and to identify the needs of the market? And also more related to your own experience, like how is your experience at Yale?
I'm going to impose the same rule. Sorry.
Yeah, just like what you learned at Yale that contributes to your current success. Yes.
So I think what it takes to sort of identify the foresight, right? I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I do is to make sure that I use all the products that we have, so that I can have a feel for the services, the products we provide as a user, so that when I talk to the 25-year-old engineer, I can relate. I can relate to what they say. I think that's very, very important. So I think, again, being close to the market, being close to your users, your customers, is of primary importance. That way you can develop that sixth sense about where things are going. If you don't even use the products, then it's very, very difficult for you to sort of figure out what the trend is, what the future will look like. About Yale, I actually, now I didn't have the fortune to have gone to the SOM. I went to the law school. Now here's the difference between the law school and the business school. And some of you who sat in the audience in law school this morning will appreciate it. We spent the entire morning, one of the sessions was fascinating, was with Chief Justice Stephen Breyer, Supreme Court Justice of the United States, okay? Fascinating man, absolutely brilliant, but he focuses on a set of laws that's called the Administrative Procedures Regulations. Before you could finish that phrase, you fall asleep. Think about it, Administrative Procedures Regulations. And that's the problem with lawyers, is we don't know how to name things. And the point Justice Breyer said is actually behind the name. The substance was actually fascinating. It involves some of the biggest philosophical and also political questions in that particular example. But then when you look at business school, we all use acronyms. I know we're called the SOM. Are we still called the SOM? Right. But the common business degree is the MBA. Correct. What does that mean? Master in Business Administration. The same word, administration, comes up, but you guys don't say Master of Business Administration because then people fall asleep. It's not sexy enough. So in business school, you learn how to market. You market yourself with acronyms. And now, I say this with lots of respect because in today's world, in the business world, and also in the other realm, in the public, if you're public service, if you're in politics, being able to communicate that message in a succinct way is very, very important. And to capture people's attention and also imagination is very, very important. So I do admire the business school graduates who can always package something that seemed to make people fall asleep in the law school, but looks very, very sexy. MBA, right? What a sexy degree.
So that's great. So I'm going to offer just two quick closing comments, and then you may have one also. I always like to think to myself, what did I get out of this session? And it's hard to limit myself to two. But I really enjoyed the question about that juncture where you decided to join the founding team of Alibaba, and you talked about the limited downside. And I was just trying to remember, 1999, that was so early with the internet, the point that you made. And if we had more time, I guess I'd ask you, to what extent was really a sense of the upside, or was it confidence in that team and excitement about being part of the team? But I thought that was just a really interesting assessment of how it was during that critical time period. The other is, in thinking about managing high-tech companies globally, and where all this is going to go, I think I would just say, and I've been a business school dean for a long time, I think we have no idea. I mean, we have no idea. We can learn a lot from companies like Alibaba and companies elsewhere around the world, because managing a global technology company, wow, that's hard. And we know a lot. We know a lot about accounting and marketing and strategy and economics. But doing what you're doing, it's a brave new world. And we're just so grateful that you came here to share your insights today. Closing comment?
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with students, with young people. This is, in what I do today in our own company, it's very, very important for someone sort of in my position to have a lot of interaction, a lot of sharing with people. I think sharing is very, very important because one of you or some of you may go away today with a few nuggets from today's session. I hope it's been valuable, and it may encourage you to do something that you otherwise wouldn't wouldn't have imagined. So I do appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts, and thank you very much. Thanks.
So please join me in thanking Joe Tsai for a wonderful session.
Thank you.
We're almost on time.
Okay, great. That's great.
Thank you all.